Okay. Oh, good. Good. I'm pleased you guys managed to make it along tonight. That's great. It does follow on from the essay writing that we did a couple of weeks ago, I guess. So maybe a wee bit of reflection on what we covered there as well. Essay writing, we really focused just on the sort of planning, preparing, writing skills, writing paragraphs, thinking about grammar and spelling, proofreading, just practice at sort of the art of writing. What we're going to focus on today is a little bit about why do we use APA referencing, why is it important, what is the formatting, how do we do it in the text and in the reference list, and how we can use Word to help with that. Have you guys, any of you actually done APA referencing before? Okay. Right, let's start from scratch. That's fine. We don't expect you to learn it all straight off. I've done 5 years of, 5 years of university study, and I still have to go back and look at the handouts to make sure I've got it right. Okay, it's not, unless you've got a really great memory, it's not necessarily something you're going to perfect overnight, but we do expect that you have go at it and try to learn how to use it, and this is the first step in that process essentially. So what it is basically a standardized way of acknowledging where the information that you've got has come from. Okay. Whenever you write an essay or an assignment, it's nice to think that you have original ideas, but mostly your original ideas have come from somewhere, okay? Or somebody else has already written about them extensively, okay? So what you're doing with essay writing is usually collating a whole lot of information from different sources into your essay or your report. To use as evidence, like remember when we talked about paragraph, it was make a statement, give some evidence or example, and then make a follow-on summarising statement or a linking statement at the end. So where is your example or your evidence coming from? Okay, it should be coming from the experts, the researchers, the academics, the university professors. They're the ones, studying these things in scientific ways and coming up with theories and ideas. So we need to acknowledge where we've got that information from whenever we're using it, and if we don't acknowledge it, it's called plagiarism. Nice little word you've probably read about in your student handbook, which you have all dutifully read, I'm sure. So plagiarism is when we use copying somebody else's words or ideas and then presenting them as if they're your own without clearly acknowledging the author, that it's their word, okay? And we've got a short video here I'll show you, which is about 5 tips to avoid accidental plagiarism. Because even if you've got the best intentions, you can still do it accidentally, unfortunately. Like this up, bear with me for a moment. Sound cable will reach that far, so let's see if this one works. Now you can see it as well as hear it, hopefully. Is that alright?
Even if you have no intention of plagiarizing, you may unwittingly plagiarize a research paper. This is called accidental plagiarism, and it could happen to you if you've not mastered publication ethics. This video presents 5 basic tips to avoid accidental plagiarism. Acknowledge the work of others. Are you sure you have acknowledged all relevant past works in your reference list? Past works include ideas, concepts, findings, methods, and even minor elements of research papers you have discussed in your paper. Forgetting to cite even a single source, minor or major, is considered as plagiarism. This applies to your own past works as well. Cite all past works that have helped you in doing your research or writing your paper. Clearly indicate which parts of your paper contain your original ideas and which are based on past works. Seatbelts help you drive safely. Quotation marks can help you write safely. In some fields of research, especially in the humanities, you can quote phrases from another author's work verbatim. In such cases, always use quotation marks and cite the author clearly. But remember that quotes are rarely used in scientific research papers.
Don't worry about it. You can
Paraphrase correctly. In scientific writing, you cannot usually use quotes. You need to paraphrase and summarize the writing of other authors. But watch out! Only changing a few words here and there is also considered plagiarism. To paraphrase, understand the meaning of the original piece of writing. Then use your own words to express that meaning and be careful to prevent any changes in the meaning. Of course, remember to cite the original paper. If you are not confident of paraphrasing, seek help from your co-authors or English-speaking colleagues. Take notes carefully. Be careful while taking notes. When you refer to your notes at a later point, you might not remember if something you've written in your notebook contains your own words, or if it's an exact quotation from another paper. When taking notes, understand the meaning and express what you have understood in your own words. Try to not copy. If you must copy something, use quotation marks to indicate to yourself that these words are not yours. Also, do not forget to include references in your notes to exact quotes as well as to parts you have paraphrased or summarized. Acknowledge common scientific knowledge. You might think that common scientific facts don't need citations. But if you're a beginner at scientific writing, try to be on the safe side and provide references as far as possible. Avoid accidental plagiarism.
Okay, it's a little bit simplistic, but you get the idea. Yes, hopefully. So it is a little bit more complicated than a lot of people think. Just changing a few words is not really sufficient to avoid plagiarism. It really is about.
Seems like it's going,
Yeah, the next video started.
What kind of rain did it?
Okay, we'll just watch YouTube all night, shall we? So the art to writing is really to be able to take that information and write it, put it in your own words, and use it effectively. So that shows to us that you've understood it. Just cutting and pasting a quote is good for emphasising a key point or giving some examples, some evidence. But you can only do that for like a sentence or maybe 2 at a time. You're not going to do a whole paragraph of that, because that's, if you're 2,000 word count and 1,000 of them are cut and paste from somewhere, you haven't written anything to prove that you understand the material.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is encourage you to be able to read the information, take notes about the information, write it in your own way. And taking notes as you're studying is really quite useful. And like you said, keeping a reference as you taking those notes as to where you've got that information from is extremely useful.
Even just having a Word document open and then copying and pasting the links where you got it from, and then you can go back afterwards when you're doing your referencing and click on those links and then read.
There's nothing worse than reading something, going, oh yeah, this is really good stuff, writing it into your essay, and then when it comes to writing your reference list a month later, going, now where did I get that really good information from? Because if I can't find the reference for it, I'm not going to be able to use it in my report.
Yeah.
Okay, so do it as you study, you know, it makes it a lot more straightforward. Now there are different methods for referencing and citing your work, and you might have heard of some of them. There are many different methods, but the one that they used in that video clip was the Harvard Business Method, where they do the footnote type approach, where they do the numbers.
I've done that one, yeah.
You've done that one? Okay. So it's Harvard Business Method, but predominantly for education, academic writing, and in New Zealand institutes, you'd be doing APA 6th edition. Does anyone know what the APA stands for?
American Psychological Association.
Oh my gosh, you gave the answers!
Oh, I wasn't even reading.
Yes, the American Psychological Association. Wow, okay, you are paying attention. That's great. So American Psychological Association, yeah. So, but it's widely used and it recognised as an appropriate format. And all that does is give us a consistent way so that we know that when we go to the reference list, we know how to read and interpret the information that's there to be able to access those sources. Because the other thing this allows us to do is to go, right, Ariana's written a really great essay on the environmental situation of this organisation. I want to find out, more about that information. I should be able to look up your reference list and go and access that material based on the information she's given there. Okay, so that means I can read more about it. It means I can check her work and make sure that it's not plagiarised word for word, and that I can, but that's essentially what it's there for, is that researchers can go and review the primary source of the information. Okay. Questions?
If you were reading a text,
Yeah.
and that was referenced,
A textbook or?
or like if you were reading something that was like referenced.
Right, a reference of a reference.
Reference and a reference, yeah.
Ideally, we try and avoid a reference of a reference because it's not the most direct way. You would try and track down that information and reference it from that source. But there is a format for doing that, and it should be in that handout. Hopefully, Polytech Library goes to AP referencing. It's usually like as cited in. So Brown and Murphy as cited in Smith and Jones 2004.
So
So it gets complicated, yeah.
when we're talking about stuff that we've learned in class and that,
You don't need
you go off the stuff you've referenced, do we just go to the original source? So we're going to reference the knowledge we already have from class.
Well, the knowledge you have from class is often from it comes from the reading materials that
Yeah.
you're provided with, so
Yeah.
or from the textbook if you've
Yeah.
got a textbook. So going and tracking down those sources and using those sources. I mean, there is a format for acknowledging sort of lectures and things, but to be honest, I'm not so interested in having you acknowledge, that you got it from me, because what if I'm wrong?
I'm meaning where you got it from, so
where we got it from.
not acknowledging that we got it from
Yeah.
you, but
Yeah.
where you got it from.
Where we're from, using our references, yeah, exactly. Using our references, where you've got those available, so to speak, or find sources of information that back up what you've covered in class.
Oh yeah.
That say the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
The textbook or something online, or the handout material that is being provided.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, does it tell you in there how to reference something where referencing your resources? So this is the problem now. Information has come in so many different ways, shapes and forms, that there are multiple formats So you have a different format for referencing a web page versus a book versus a journal, and I'll talk about those three primarily. Maybe it doesn't cover it in there, but you should be able to look that up. So if you're basically, like, say you've got a textbook as a classic example where you might have something that's summarised in there and they're summarising somebody else's research. If you can't get hold of that research from them, the original document, you would say, Smith and Jones as cited in Bartol, Tyne, Matthews, Sharma, et al., whatever.
Oh,
Okay, that's the format for that. But again, it's not very direct. When do you need to reference? When you quote directly and when you paraphrase somebody else's words or ideas. So we talked about that with the concept of plagiarism. It is academic misconduct. We're not going to, at this stage we're guiding you guys, we're trying to help guide you into being able to do this. So we will be looking, and we've got computer tools that we can use to analyse your work to check if it's 100% quote, direct copy, and we can usually tell, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because your writing style changes when you copy something off the internet versus what you would normally write and what we know our students tend to write like. So, and we can put it in and check. It gives us a percentage of plagiarised material per assessment. So just avoid it, is what I'm suggesting. Otherwise it goes to academic board and all that sort of carry on. Yeah. Initially we will guide you and provide feedback and say, hey, you need to redo this.
Yeah.
Okay? Or else. So don't be too scared. There are two key parts to referencing, and this is writing it into your text as you write, and putting the reference list at the end. So I've given some examples there, and there's also an example in that handout from the Polytech one. Page 9 is a sample in-text referencing and reference list. So in your paragraph, in your essay, you might write, Fipp and Sims 2008 note that due to contradictory research, vaccines have developed a bad reputation with parents. Page 5. Wherever you do a direct quote, you need to include the page number or the paragraph number. That's a website. Fipp and Sims are the authors, the surnames of the authors. 2008 is the year it was published. Okay? Yeah. So we write it into the text and cite it that way, and then in your reference list it would show as the full reference. These are the authors. This is the title of the article, the long-term implications of anti-vaccination campaigns on public health. This is the source, so the source is always in italics, so if it's a book or a journal, it's always in italics. Trust me, the italics and the full stops and the commas and everything, they are there for reasons, and that's the format, and you will get, if you're carrying on studying at a higher level, lecturers who mark you down for not having your commas and full stops around the right way and in the right place. Okay.
I'm terrible.
We might be a little bit more lenient on that, hey?
I'm terrible with punctuation.
Well, this punctuation is meaningful. This is the volume and issue number of the journal, and then page numbers of the journal article. So that's how you would do it for a journal. It is a little different for a book or a website, like I said. Questions?
So that P5 would remind me again, was that the paragraph or the page?
It's page number.
Page.
If it's from a document that has, see, page 5. Page 103 to 105. It should be page 105. I just made these up.
That might be where I got a wee bit confused.
So that's not actually an article at all. If it was from a web site that doesn't have pages, that's when you do it by paragraph instead. But that's only if you include a direct quote. If you're just paraphrasing, you don't need it at all. So paraphrasing is a good option. It shows that you've understood the material And there are quite a few different ways of actually doing it. So that example there was actually paraphrasing, you know. You paraphrased most of it and you just added a direct quote for the meaningful part. But there are plenty of different methods, and it adds variety to your writing if you can master some of these different methods. So, okay, here's some examples. So, paraphrasing. You need to evaluate your information sources and choose the most useful ones. This evaluation is ongoing throughout the research process. That key idea has come from Peer in 2004. Or you could write the same thing, Peer in 2004 believes students need to evaluate their information sources and choose the most useful ones. Same meaning, right? Slightly different writing. Here's the direct quote option. Peer in 2004 noted that students need to evaluate their information sources and choose the most useful ones.
This is going to be confusing.
Yeah.
Keep it simple for starters, okay? But yeah, so this is just options, and you know, and if you look at the sample text on page 9 there, you can see some of the different approaches. So the Palmerston North College of Education produced 2 reports in the recognition of prior learning, RPL, and then it's referenced what those 2 reports are. Griffin 1990, Griffin and Brooklyn 1991. At much the same time, Nina and Richard Benton of the New Zealand Council for Educational Research were contracted to provide reports to the Māori caucus. Benton, yeah, they were, yeah. Significant too was a paper by Glennis Patterson, 1991 of Massey University. So they put in what are the significant sources of information. And then they have referenced it in the reference list at the end. So there's 2 parts, the in-text citation and then including all of the sources of information in your reference list.
There's that many in that many words.
There may not be, I don't know. And that's the other thing. This is the difference between, there's a difference between a reference list and a bibliography. Do you know what it is?
No. What's a bibliography? Hang on. It's normally a book about yourself.
That's a biography, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A few more B's and L's and things in there. Yeah. Bibliography is a complete list of all of the things that you've read and thought about, you know, looked at in relation to the piece of writing that you're doing. Whereas a reference list is only a list of the things that you've actually directly cited in your essay.
So we don't have to do a bibliography?
No, there may be some point in time in your academic career that you are expected to do a bibliography, but at this stage it's just a reference list, okay? So only whatever you've cited. And often, sometimes an assignment might specify you need to use at least 5 sources, okay? So you might put something on there, but sometimes there's no clarification as to how many different sources you should use. But obviously, the more sources you have, the more validation of your ideas that you're putting across. Okay. So we do expect you to do a bit of research, and research is a key part of this, whole process. Essentially, being able to use the library facilities. Yes, here we go. Sources of information. So you've obviously got a textbook if you've got that for your course. You've got the reading material that we've given you. You've got our lecture notes and so forth. There's also Google. What's wrong with Google? Anything? Anything wrong with just Googling it?
Reliability.
Reliability. We don't know that the information is actually any good. We can Google anything and come up with a million hits. So vaccinations.
Oh God.
And, something that broad is obviously going to bring up how many hits are 14 million or something. And we don't necessarily know how relevant that is. So one thing you can do with Google if you're wanting to if you're wanting to find more reliable sources of information, is you can use Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is essentially another search tool. And you look up vaccinations and it already brings up vaccinations and autism. And all of a sudden you're looking at much more academic type articles on that particular subject. I mean, obviously that subject's way too big. But the point there is that, you know, it is about weeding out and finding the useful information, the correct, you know, the relevant information, and we use this term peer-reviewed. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but peer-reviewed essentially means that the research has been sort of validated by a panel of peers in a similar professional area. So articles that are submitted to journals go through a peer review process where other colleagues will read it and say, yep, the scientific methodology is sound, the conclusions are valid, and we will accept it for publication into this journal. So we like to use documents that are peer reviewed or professionally published because it just gives a little bit more validity through that. Now, the problem with Google Scholar is you might come up with lots of articles that are relevant, but then it says it wants $30 for you to read it. No, I don't want to pay $30 to read it. So if you can't access that information through there or through Google directly, then we actually, through our Polytech, you do have access to student information in the library section. Through our library, you have access to a whole range of information. So these handouts that I've got come from our Polytech, have come from here. I can't remember exactly where it is. Is it under there? Yes. Research assistance, databases and ebooks. This link gives you access to our research databases. Oh, no. Alright, okay, don't go that way. Use the link on the top of the WorldCat Discovery handout that I've given you, because that's basically what we're trying to get into is WorldCat. That's what it's called. WorldCat Discovery. Out of that incorrect URL.
Yeah.
Well, nice.
Like, sorry.
Your WorldCat, you can sign into using your student ID number, so with the S in the front, the same way as you log into the computer, and your computer login. Okay, now if you haven't got those yet, come and see me or email me, and I'll make sure you get them. Okay. Because you can actually, I think you can actually access this off campus as well. So you can do your research from home. And you can, hey?
Sorry, does the password update when?
Yes, I would assume it updates when you, yeah. It should be linked.
And you have to change it every now and then as well.
Yeah, you do. So you go to advanced search and just click on the advanced search there, and the advanced search takes you into these different options. So you can type in keyword vaccinations. You can search by, you know, if you know the name of the author that you're looking for, you can search by author, or the name of the journal you're wanting to look at, you can do it that way as well. If you're just wanting keywords, so we'll say vaccinations and autism, why not? There's just, sorry if it's that particular topical topic for some people. But yeah, there you go. There you can start to pull up and what we hold in the library. So that's our ebooks. And you can see on the slide, we've just got clicked there, the type of Polytech library. don't limit yourselves to that, let's go worldwide. Yeah, let's go worldwide and see what we can come up with from a worldwide perspective. So you might get books, but if you might also get journal articles at some point. Yeah. You can specify down here, full text. I only want something that I can actually read.
Can you refine it by the date it was published?
You can refine it by date, because if it was done, we're in 2018, research that was done in 2008 is already redundant in some ways. That changes so quickly. 2008 is probably okay. 1998, probably not. It depends on the topic.
Yeah.
Like I teach HR management as well, and there was a really big piece of work done in 1998 that is still referenced because it was so important. It was a big piece of work. It was called meta-analysis. Have you heard of a meta-analysis? No, it's really exciting in the field of research. It's when
We obviously don't research.
it's when you take all of the studies on a particular subject and collate them together to see if you can pull out any overall trends. It would be like taking, so there's one study about vaccination causing autism, and then there's 400 others that prove that it doesn't, right? So it's about taking all of those studies together and coming out with the overall findings. As to what but which gives the information so much more validity, because you're actually dealing with mass information rather than one study, which could have been flawed from the get-go. And actually they didn't actually find that anyway. So meta-analyses are useful. But you can search by the last 5 years if you want to. Last 10 years. I just want to find out something that was, and I'm going to go full text, so only something I can actually look at. I don't want to look at books, I just want to look at articles. There we go, and I only want to look at peer-reviewed articles. I don't want to, because even on here you can get articles that aren't peer-reviewed. You might get media or news articles. And now we've limited down to 84 results in the marvelous autism and false choice, so you can go and read the full text. Look up the article and read it. Okay. Yeah. And if you're really struggling with all of that, our wonderful librarians are sitting there playing Sudoku all day, so please go and use them because they love searching up stuff for you. Alright? They never heard me say that. No, they're very busy, but that's what they're there for, to help you with as well. If you're struggling to find relevant information, we've got books and journals in hard copies, even in the library, if you would like hard copies. And they will be able to help you search, because knowing what keywords to use and how to search is also quite tricky. They give you some examples in that handout on searching for information on WorldCat Discovery. There are some tips in there on how to search as well. Questions? Yeah, so that's about getting credible information to use as sources, getting lots of different sources of information. And then, knowing how to reference them in text and in the reference list, slightly different formatting. Okay, what's wrong with the formatting that I've used here?
Use the page. Use your page number.
No, I don't need the page number if it's a book, because it's all pages in a book. I need a page number for the journal, so that's in there. Look at the example reference list on page 10 of the handout. Is there anything that immediately stands out?
As alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order, good, yes.
There's like lots of them.
There are lots of them. For the format.
Is it like indented?
Indented, yeah, good. The indent, you always do a hanging indent for the second line, second and third line. Don't ask me why they came up with this stuff. Okay. But all the parts are there for a reason, the author, the date, the title, and that is essentially so that you can go and access that information. Like a web document, you know, something that you get from online, like if you guys are doing anything that's relevant, specific to New Zealand, you know, you might be looking at articles from Ministry of Business, Innovation, Employment or Statistics New Zealand or any of our, you know, a WorkSafe or whatever, you might want to be using sources there. So whenever you use something from a website, let's say when we retrieved February 15th from, and you put the HTTP, the URL link there. So that, you know, you can go on and find it easily.
So you've always got to put that word retrieved in there.
Retrieved, yeah, and the date.
And then what the heading of the website and then the website.
Yeah, and it's interesting there, like normally you'd have the author, right?
Yeah.
The author's name, but for something like a document on the Ministry of Health website, it probably won't give you the name of the actual writer because it's written by the organisation, on behalf of the organisation.
Yeah.
So the name of the organisation would become the author of the article, essentially. Yeah. So in your list, alphabetical order, indent the second line, use the correct format for different types, and refer back to your handout on that. And include just the sources that you refer to in your work.
Now, I was just thinking on that one before, it had the date on it.
Yes.
You don't have to find that on a website, or do we just, how do we deal with that?
If you can just put n.d, no date.
Okay.
But actually, if you look at a lot of websites down the bottom of the website, let's see. So we look at, I don't know, look at our website. Is ours got one on it?
They often have a date, like when the website was
Yeah.
launched, but that doesn't mean the stuff inside it was done on that
But
day.
that's the date for the references.
Oh,
the
okay.
date. Like often down the very bottom of the website, there might be a date or a copyright date or something down the bottom. But
But that's just the date that you have gone on the website, or that?
no, the date is usually like when it was published on the
Okay.
website. But that would stay. You can use just the date that on the bottom of the web page if it has a date. Otherwise, you just put ND.
Okay.
Okay.
That date doesn't generally change.
You can change. It's sufficient. That'll be sufficient. It's the best you can do with that. You know, the information you've got at that time. That's what you've got.
Okay.
Now, using Word, I need you to learn to do it. So if you want to do it, that's fine. But I would always argue that you're better off doing it the old-fashioned way and actually learning how to do it properly rather than using Microsoft Word. And I've given you the handout for that. Creating a reference list using Word 2007. It's the most up-to-date one we've got, but that tells you a little bit about how to go about doing it automatically through Word. I can show you very, very quickly where it is. And then if you want to figure it out and be smarter than me, that is absolutely fine. Up in the references ribbon, I don't know if you've even noticed that before, but up in there it's got APA, insert citation, bibliography. You probably always ignored it. Yeah. Not relevant, never going to need that. Oh yeah, there you go. So you can actually add them all into here. Add all of your sources in, add all of the information in. And then, you know, when you insert a citation in the text, it adds it into the text for you, and then when you add it into your reference list, it adds it into your
Oh,
reference
so it
list.
puts the little numbers in.
It's, well, so with APA referencing, we don't do the numbers. That's the Harvard business method, which you can do in here. There you go, Harvard. But we're not doing Harvard. Instead of the little numbers, we're using the author's names in brackets. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we do have to do APA.
You do have to do APA. Yeah, I think I specified APA consistently across the board. It's just way easier to mark and for tutors to
Yeah.
have one approved sort of method. And,
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to go ahead and learn how to do that without me. But
I'm not good
the
at
problem is, if the computer doesn't get it right and you don't know what right looks like, then you will still get it wrong. Okay? So if you know what right looks like and you can do it manually, and you're not going to be dealing with, you know, 1,000 different sources of information, you know, you're probably going to have a page for your reference list, okay, at this level. Yeah. By the time you write your master's thesis, your reference list will probably be 10 pages long. But not quite yet, all right? So it should be manageable for you to keep a track of, you know, that many references.
Yeah.
And do it manually. Because then you can practice getting it right. And we'll try and give you feedback as you go on it. So don't panic. Like, look at what the APA referencing is worth in your assessment. So I think, for example, the assessment you guys have just got for that one. So actually the weighting for research is 20%, so that you've used like 4 to 5 scholarly sources. There you go. It says in the marking rubric, 4 to 5 scholarly sources would get you. It should get you an A, 80 to 100. Okay.
So is that more on?
So that's just 4 or 5 sources. It's not like.
So would that be more on the like using the pistol?
That's the sources of information are that you've got scholarly articles or textbooks or
Yeah, but that is more about the strategic part of it, not just like, because we've got to do it based on a business.
Yeah, based on the business, but that you've used scholarly articles to back up what you're
Okay.
So you're applying the information to a business, but the information is still information that's come from a source.
Yeah, but you're not. But a lot of businesses you're going to get scholarly information about it, the actual business.
No, you won't get scholarly information about the actual business, but you can use the scholarly references to back up what you're saying about the business.
Yeah.
So it's in here in the rubrics, and the rubrics are probably quite similar across the different courses. 20% for the research. Sources are well chosen, authoritative, and appropriate for the task. Excellent understanding showing the research is very well integrated with the main text. So we're looking at how well you build those citations into the text. And you've used at least 4 to 5 scholarly sources of information. Mm-hmm. And then you've only got a 5% weighting for the actual in-text citations and the reference list in APA format. So no errors, you'll get 80 to 100. 1 error, you'll get 65 to 79, 2 to 3. If you get more than 5 errors, you won't get anything, okay? So
No pressure.
no pressure. Yeah. But look at your marking schedules and see what is it worth. You know, like, please don't spend, you know, hundreds of hours trying to get your reference list perfect when it's only worth 5%. I'd rather you write a good essay and have a go at the referencing and, you know, try and get it as good as you can for now. And we'll work on feedback so that you can improve it. Yeah. Study the list. And, like, look at, I think in the essay writing I referred you to the ARA website. They've got really good tools for writing and paragraph. So, and also for APA referencing. They've got some good online learning tools there. Every university and project, like you Google APA referencing, 6th edition, there'll be a guide from every every institution will have their own guide. So if you find ours doesn't cover something, look up another one, okay? And give the librarian some feedback, because they created that, so, you know, if it's not user-friendly, then tell them. Yeah, a lot of this stuff has come from the ARA Institute of Technology, their learning resources. So, just to acknowledge that, that's my source, that's my reference there. APA referencing, looking at explain it, show it, quizzes, more sources of information, downloadable resources. So definitely, if you feel like you need a bit more, go and have a look at that. Okay. Any questions?
I'm still kind of confused, but that's all.
I think with referencing, you really just have to go and give it a go.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
From there.
Yeah, with you doing it.
Yeah, but I mean, you've started doing the essay and stuff already, so I think the key is that as you're starting to write and you're starting to read things, make sure you're writing down where you're getting that information from, so it does become quite an easy process.
Yeah, like I said, I just need another Word document and then copy and paste the links and then go back afterwards.
Copy and paste the links and then go back and reference them.
Yeah.
Or make even, like if you put the URL and then you make little notes as to what that particular one's about. So
Yeah.
you can easily go back in. I mean, you know, once you do get to like project or thesis level, you know, like keeping track of the documents that you're citing is a huge part of the job, you know, like
Yeah.
I know I read something really, really useful somewhere in the stack of papers and now I'm going to go back and find it. That's not helpful, so do it as you go. If you've got questions, feel free to email me, or like I said, the librarians are actually, they'll help you find sources and information, but they'll also help proofread, and they will help check your APA referencing, especially Maria's particularly good at APA referencing, okay? So, you know, if you need somebody to run their eyes over it before you hand it in, go and give them something to do. It's not helping.
Also, is there any standard formatting you want us to use for Word for
Word? I don't think, is it specified in the rubric there in terms of the writing, polished presentation, clear and concise writing, mature and appropriate writing style, excellent grammar, correct in all aspects, no spelling errors. There's nothing else around specifying format, but you would usually go for like 11 size font and maybe time and a half spacing would be standard.
But say I wanted to have, like, because we're doing it on a business, say I wanted to have the business colours as the header colours, would that be like look professional like that?
Yeah, you could. Oh yeah. Yeah. To be honest, say the ink just a bit.
Oh, true. I don't know. I like.
Yeah,
I
no,
like
you can.
colours. And
Yeah, no,
things.
you can. That's fine. That's fine. No reason why. I'm probably going to print it in black and white.
Yeah. But when I print it off at the end, I'm going to print it.
You'll print it
I'm
off.
going to do it.
That's great.
Yeah, go away, have a go. I know it seems a bit daunting, and I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with too much information.
Hopefully we don't do that much in accounting.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have to do it too much in accounting at all, but when you get to other papers, you might.
This will be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and you won't really know what you're doing until you start trying to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, sure. Yeah, I think so. I just did.
Okay? All right.